So yeah, what I'm going to do today is talk about, firstly try to work out this, sorry, the big green button. Yeah, sorry, again, my face up on the screen, apologies. Yeah, so I'm a security strategist at Fastly, so I look after the whole APJ region. I get the privilege of flying around, talking to lots of different customers in lots of different industries. Based out of Sydney, but as it says there, yeah, I feel like I'm always at an airport. My talk doesn't mention AI at all, so I had to put it somewhere, so I love AI. So, what I wanted to do firstly is just give you a brief overview of, who Fastly is, and to give you an idea about, where I'm coming from when I'm presenting this research. So Fastly, we have a mission statement, if you like, that says we want the internet to be fast, safe, and engaging. So what we've done to deliver on that is to really develop this fully programmable network that spans the globe. And what that does is allow us to be able to deliver applications extremely fast, closest to the users that are going to use them. But you, of course, need to secure these applications. So we've generated this next generation's technology that really doesn't rely on things like signatures and stuff like that. So we're able to be extremely efficient in capturing new threats, existing threats, without a lot of false positives. So that makes sure that we can deliver on these applications. So we have customers all over the globe. So if you've ever watched streaming media, if you've ever booked an airline ticket, if you've ever purchased something online, you've probably used Fastly at some point. So enough of that. So what we do is publish, because we're in so many verticals all across the globe, we publish these different types of industry-specific threat reports, observations, things like that. So what I'm going to do today is talk about this research we've just released at the end of last year, and as I was going through this, there was a real theme that I wanted to sort of explore with you today, to be able to uncover some things that we're seeing, and after talking to a lot of security professionals today, I think those themes really ring true to what we've seen in this research. So let me dive into that further. So just before this, we surveyed 1,800 security professionals from this region, from EMEA, from US as well, of course, at all different levels. We surveyed CISOs, we surveyed security engineers, security managers, ops people, so I think it's a really good cross-section. So if we look at the number of security incidents that our respondents told us that they had last year, on average it was over 40 security incidents in 12 months. So when you think about that, that's nearly one a month. Yeah, maybe one and a bit every 2 months. So that's actually quite a lot on average security people have to deal with. And that changes a lot in region too. So if we take the American statistics, so in the US, it's 63 incidents that their cybersecurity teams have to deal with. That's, we're talking more than one a week there. So you imagine how stressed and how much in demand that the security professionals must be to be able to handle that. And the impact of that is really, typically it's downtime is the major one, especially when you think of trends that are happening with threats. It's either DDoS attacks, ransomware attacks. Often it's about more of a destructive type of result. Data loss, again, is one of those things that have always been around, and that's what ransomware has evolved into as well. And if we look at the what these survey respondents predicted to be the biggest cybersecurity threats for this year, essentially, Social engineering is definitely right up there in number one, and no surprise there. Ransomware is number two. That's no surprise either. I think everyone would agree that that's something that we see, all the time. So social engineering attacks could be, could be phishing attacks. It could be other types where you're trying to manipulate the human element. And I thought I'd cross-reference this to the Verizon data breach report, the latest one, and we can still see on the right-hand side there that over 68% of incidents have been involved some sort of human element to them. So the human element is definitely an important factor to consider. We have the usual suspects as well. Oh, you can't see it here. Data exfiltration, web application exploits, supply chain attacks, account takeovers. I guess the more traditional sort of attacks that we see all the time. Web application attacks are quite interesting. If you look at the Verizon data breach report, for example, web applications are the number one attack vector for any breach, and they're consistently like that every year. So, I guess as a result of this, the surveys have said that most, on average, are getting a security, their budget, or their security budget will be expanding to help adapt to the increase in threats. The threat landscape is quite complex, as we all know, and it's ever evolving. So, 87% on average are expecting their organisations to increase that investment, which is great news, as long as they do it properly, which is, I guess, the spoiler to my talk at the end. Now, given that what I said before about web applications are the number one attack vector in a breach, in a data breach typically, we see that organisations are actually spending quite a bit of money on the web application and API security solution, or making sure that APIs are everything is running on an API now. So if you're deploying an application to the internet, there's no doubt going to be some sort of APIs associated to that on most solutions. So now the money they spend, it depends on the sector. We found that typically technology and government is they're spending a lot more into this area. But if we look at what their planned investments in cybersecurity are going to be in the next year, so essentially this year, it was interesting that modern authentication was number one, which is great. I think everyone who's had anything to do with zero trust initiatives and just generally cleaning up their environment, authentication is typically the top priority to that. Cyber insurance is number two. That changes depending on the region, but yeah, cyber insurance is definitely something that's on everyone's mind. But then again, I guess we come down to the maybe the more traditional things around API security, API gateways. I talk to customers almost every day about API security. That's what everybody has been wanting to know. Managed security services is another big one as well. It's like, what's that, number 4? And managed security services is an important thing. If we find a lot of customers don't have the manpower to be able to make sense of all the telemetry and the data that they're getting from all their security controls. There's some great SIMs and other solutions out there that can make sense of that using AI and other technologies. But a lot of them have focused on looking at seeing if they can partner with a managed security provider. Number 5 is WAF and DDoS and etc. So it's interesting just to see those priorities. They change a little bit every year, but they're generally the usual suspects through there. Now, this slide is a little bit confusing. I think, to be honest, our survey respondents misinterpreted the question, because The question is like, how many cybersecurity solutions are you reliant on? The people I talk to almost wish they had only 8 cybersecurity solutions that they had to rely on. We did a similar survey to this the previous year, and the average was around 50 that our survey respondents had to rely on. So, and with that comes, generally a lot of complexity. Like you've got a lot of things that, the more controls that you have in your environment, the more you have to manage. So, you want to make sure that, the stuff you're putting in has a clearly defined purpose. And the result of all these different solutions is that you'll find that there's a lot of overlapping security controls. So we found on average 38% was 38% of respondents said they had overlapping security controls. Now that could be quite valid reasons, or it could be that there's some maybe inefficient spending. The controls are brought in. There's some new great technology, so everyone wants it and they put it in, but they're not thinking maybe more of in the perspective of risk and why it's there and what it's trying to solve. So yeah, this number has been pretty consistent. The previous year this was up to 40%. We're looking at 38%, so it's roughly around the same. So if you want to dive further into that, we have another report called Fighting Fire with Fire. They always have to have these sensational sort of headlines, but the data inside is actually quite an interesting read. Now, a lot of people, as a result of complexity, lots of tools, overlapping controls, a lot of people that we talk to and the survey respondents are looking for going into sort of like a security consolidation environment, or initiatives, I should say. And they're doing that for a number of different reasons. And interestingly, cost is like 1, 2, 3, 4, like number 5. So cost is not the reason they're trying to consolidate. It's really trying to get control of their environment back. So improved controls, better integration with other systems, simplified management. And the security priorities for next year is what they're telling us is certainly the human element again is popping up, improved cybersecurity skills. So basically everyone talks about the skills gap. The skills gap is real. I was talking to some people at lunchtime as well about this as well. And it's definitely something that you're seeing here in the Philippines as well. So it's really trying to put initiatives in to nurture your own talent from within, try to find a good talent in the market. Automate more of our cybersecurity workflows is number 2. And when you think about it, if you don't have enough people to manage the environment, you sort of want to move to more automated workflows. Some things can be done really easy with security orchestration systems, and AI is really advancing that a lot further. So when I was putting this together, I attended a security conference in Australia, and I don't know if anyone's heard of Chirag Joshi or read this book, but it's actually, he was talking about a model that he sort of developed, a security architecture model for putting, reducing the amount of tool sprawl, making purchasing decisions more efficient, making sure that there's actually a reason that controls are going into place. So, and I thought it sort of capped perfectly the message that I was trying to talk about. So I chatted to him, he told me I could stick this slide in here. So, and what I'm going to do then is try to map that to like a real security control, like a WAF, because I've been dealing with WAF in one way or another for the last decade. So I've seen lots of good implementations and lots of mistakes as well. So I want to talk about that. So But firstly, if you look at the framework, and really you start at the foundations, the 3C models, because it's coverage, configuration, and clarity. So firstly, coverage. You need to firstly understand what you're trying to protect. So getting a critical asset register is a very important thing, because you can't really understand how to control risks and find impact of an exploit of your assets if you don't actually have a good understanding of what those critical assets are. And they should be developed not from one particular team. They should be developed from stakeholders across all of the business to be able to say, what are your, typically people call them crown jewels. And then you need to inventory those security tools. So what do you have in the environment? Do you have a lot of tools that are very specialized? Are they overlapping? Are you finding that through that inventory of security tools that you have some tools that are they're good for data center based deployments, but they're no good for cloud or things like that. So you can start feeding all this analysis into your security policy and your roadmap for potentially things like consolidation and getting better value out of your assets. And what is the current extent of that deployment? There might be stuff that's being deployed, but it hasn't finished. So you have unrealized value of the assets you've bought. The next layer up, configuration. This is where you sort of map out what the use cases are, why are these solutions even in place. If there's no clear use cases for a solution, then it shouldn't really even be in the environment. That's where you find out if there's any overlaps. Again, going back to my survey results, yeah, it sort of it ties in nicely to see, are there overlapping controls, are there gaps in the things that you're trying to fill? And then, does it integrate into your own environment? If you can't send your data off to your other systems and your SIMs and things like that, then it becomes less valuable. You don't want to build these like one-off snowflakes inside your environment. They really need to be part of the rest. And then, lastly, who has control? Who has the ownership of these assets? Who's going to support them? Who's going to maintain them? Is also that last bit on clarity. So, as I said, Fastly is a WAF vendor, but I've been dealing with customers with WAF and modern application security deployments for a decade or more now. So what I thought I'd do is map this to a WAF, because I truly believe that a WAF is one of the most misunderstood and poorly implemented security controls of all time. It may be controversial to say that, but people either love a WAF or they hate it. So I thought this is a good model to sort of map a WAF deployment to. So firstly, we look at, again, we're going to start at the coverage. So inventory of security controls. So are there existing WAFs in your environment? And again, this can apply to any security control. I'm just using WAF because I had to pick one. And I'm one of these people who actually love WAFs. So are there any existing WAFs? A lot of people have multiple WAFs in their environment. Some they don't even know. The security team might know about the on-prem WAF, but the cloud or the app team might be using their own in AWS or Azure or some other public cloud, which is totally separate policy, totally separate management. Are they deployed? So a WAF shouldn't be considered deployed unless it's in full blocking mode, because otherwise it's not doing anything. It's just logging and providing extra stuff to your SIM. So let's move on to configuration. So I've got 40 seconds, so let's see how we go. What are the objectives of this control? And this is, I guess, I'll try not to get on my soapbox about this, but one thing I ask people when they come to us and say, hey, we want a WAF, and I'd say, great, why do you need a WAF? I mean, it seems like a silly question. Everyone who has an internet-facing application most probably needs a WAF, but some people need it for different reasons. And that directly feeds back into the next section about control ownership. So why do you need a WAF? Is it just to tick a box for compliance? Are you looking at specific things that your security policy needs to address? are there any risks that you specifically want to mitigate? And then lastly, control ownership. So depending on that answers to the previous questions, then like it generally feeds into who is actually going to manage this thing? Who's going to manage the WAF? Is it the app team? Is it the security team? Is it the ops team? Is there a security governance who will directly advise on policy, things like that? So, yeah, generally, what role does the WAF play in the bigger? Because there's no right or wrong answer to that. Lots of people have different needs and different way to deploy and manage their WAF. So that's all I wanted to talk about today. I thought it was interesting, just the survey results that we found sort of really matches a bit of an industry problem around, lots of complexity, lots of people trying to deal with more, but there's always a skills shortage that they have to deal with as well. So I'm out of time, so thank you.
That's our guy right there from Cassie. Thank you very much.